You've only got one mama, you only got one pa, you've only got one life to live, no matter who you are. You can go the whole
Thika Superhighway is a brainchild of the Kenyan government, and it is being done with the financing of the African Development Bank and the Kenya government. Because these things are what we need to reduce the cost of doing business. Traffic jams are a cost to business.
It is perhaps the most ambitious and impressive infrastructure project in Kenya's history. A massive 8-lane superhighway that stretches all the way from the country's capital, Nairobi, to the industrial town of Thika, some 50 kilometers that way. Actually, make that 50.4 kilometers to be precise, because when it comes to building roads, every inch counts.
There it is, holding it now in 2, 3. There it is. The road is now officially open.
It is now my pleasure to declare Nairobi Thika Superhighway officially open.
It is the pride of a country, region, and continent, and an example of a warm and growing partnership between a government and a bank that's fast becoming the go-to bank in Africa. The African Development Bank fully funded the 31 billion shilling or $250 million project.
So I want to salute the wisdom of the Kenya government here. Infrastructure is a means to an end. The end is trade and movement of people and goods. That is the way to go. We need more connectivity, roads, waterways, urban systems, rails, and so on. This is how you construct an economy. You begin at the beginning. This is the backbone of an economy.
Many here admit it is definitely money well spent for a road network that was a long time coming and couldn't have come at a more opportune time.
I thank the African Development Bank, which has partnered with us in the financing of many infrastructure projects across the country. The bank has funded Lot 1 and Lot 2 of this project. I particularly thank the bank president, Mr. Donald Makaberuka, for his unwavering support that has contributed to the transformation of our roads subsector.
For years, Kenya's infrastructure was considered dilapidated at best. The last time this same road network was expanded was back in the early 1970s, from 2 to 4 lanes. But 40 years later, there has been an urgent need to further expand this road network, which sees more than 60,000 vehicles a day plying this busy thoroughfare.
Yes, we were struggling indeed because of finances. Very little that is visible. Very little that is visible.
Yeah.
In roads, I think the biggest thing that we could really talk about is the drawing of the section from Thika to Makutano, the building of the Thika road. Then it was dual-right. Basically, the reasons are we were not getting any financing from our development partners. The relationships were so bad. I think the whole of the 1990s in terms of infrastructure development was a wasted decade.
Yeah.
Because there was very little resources coming in. People say that we were able to, survive without assistance.
The Thika Superhighway expansion project is set to transform the entire landscape and economy of the capital and its environs.
5 years ago, I drove on that road because I was checking how it is. It took me hours. It was bad. Not very bad, but it was bad enough.
Yeah.
I came here for the inauguration of the works. And I've driven on that road. I'm extremely pleased and proud that we could have joined effort with the Kenya government to have this kind of infrastructure which Africa needs.
Numerous global companies competed for the tender to build the superhighway, and in the end, 3 Chinese companies were awarded the contract to construct the road network, which is set to not only ease the endemic traffic congestion in the Nairobi metropolitan area, but also increase the speed and rate of doing business.
The bank has played a key role in getting that road off the ground, and we are pleased with that. Of course, we value the partnership that the Chinese bring on board. They have assisted Africa in ways that we never imagined before because of their large resources.
This highway, Your Excellency, will serve to open up trade routes all the way to Ethiopia and beyond, and complement the envisioned Kenya shillings 2 trillion LAPSET project, which is also a Vision 2030 flagship project. Vision 2030 Delivery Board, we acknowledge the fact that these projects would transform our regional economies through increased trade, integration and interconnectivity with our neighbors, namely South Sudan, Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and other Horn of Africa neighbors.
Construction began in April 2009 and involved expanding the 4-lane carriageway and doubling it into an 8-lane superhighway. The superhighway is supported by 2 bypasses. The eastern bypass that connects it to another highway known as Mombasa Road, and the northern bypass connecting it to another highway known as Waiyaki Way. These 3 then form what's known as the arteries that service large motor vehicle traffic to, from, and through the heart of the Nairobi Central Business District.
So if we had started the southern bypass, the eastern and the northern are now getting completed. Thika Road would have been there. And then all these missing links that you are seeing as opening up Nairobi, the totality of it is that the impact of traffic congestion would have been reduced.
The superhighway also required the building of an intricate web of everything from tunnels and underpasses, interchanges and roundabouts, flyovers and overpasses, all aimed at easing congestion. For years, traffic in and out of the capital, Nairobi, was nothing short of a nightmare. A perfect example, public commuters taking public transportation to and from their places of work, which would take an average of 30 minutes. Before this superhighway, one traffic jam after another would find commuters stuck in traffic for upwards of 3 hours. But many tried to avoid what had fast become the infamous Thika Road. But it was almost impossible. This stretch of highway is one of the most important, if not one of the most accessible routes to and from the capital. These minibuses, locally known as matatus, form the main mode of transportation for the thousands of commuters that make their way to and from the capital daily. During the 3-year construction of the superhighway, matatu drivers admit business was severely affected.
Maisha ilikuwaga baya sana juu jamu ilikuwaga inashikana kabisa. Shida ingine ilikuwaga kwa road ni masaa vile time inaenda tu mwenyewe, labda hata zile dua nataka huwezi ukazimeki kuzigeti, lakini siku hizi tunazigeti hata ikifika saa 7.
But they are also quick to admit that once the superhighway is completed, doing business on this stretch will never be the same again.
Hii barabara jo iko superhighway iko poa juu tunaenda skudi mobo hata ladha kuliko zile tunaenda kitambo. Sasa hakunaga jam.
Imenisavia time like nakaa Zimmerman, nikitoka shule nikienda home I'm guaranteed that nitafika mapema. Then kama natoka home nikikuja shule I'm sure sita late. Kutoka home natoka kitu some minutes to 8 and by 8 nitakuwa shule already. Okay, before itengenezwe ilikuanga stress juu jam, kukinyesha ungefika home mapema, kukinyesha ulikuwa guaranteed ni lazima fare ikuwe mob. Lakini saa hii Hata kunyeshe hakuna kuongezewa fare.
Another beneficiary of the Thika Superhighway are factories and farms, which are springing up in record numbers due to the close proximity to a reliable road network and invariably making it possible to easily get goods and services to the marketplace.
Mimi nauzaga mahindi chemsha. Superhighway inanisaidia nikienda kwa soko naenda haraka. Zamani tulikuwa tunaenda na masaa matatu, sasa tunaenda na 30 minutes kutoka Osop mpaka Githurai. Na haina jam kubwa na accident zimepungua.
This is a project that also proves to all skeptics that indeed Vision 2030 is not a dream but a homegrown blueprint to create a globally competitive and prosperous nation by the year 2030.
But no doubt, the biggest beneficiaries of the Thika Superhighway are ordinary Kenyans. Those whose daily commute to and from their homes used to take up most of the day. That's now been reduced exponentially, in some cases down to less than half an hour.
When they opened this flyover at the museum, and when the engineers told me that they were going to open it to traffic, I kept on asking, have you opened? Have you opened? When they told me it's open, I got off from the office. It was around 11 o'clock and I told the driver, let's go to Zuguke. Then we did another turn. I wanted to stop there and have a feel, but I felt like a boy.
Yeah.
So there is that feeling. It's exciting. It feels good.
Yeah.
Before the Thika Superhighway was built, traffic was a nightmare. It would take probably two hours to 2.5 hours to get to town. What we would do was you use a different route, a longer route, so that you avoid coming to work probably 2 hours late. Because of that, we used to use a lot of fuel. First of all, I would say there's a major difference right now. We probably use 3,000 a week. We used to use around 6,000 to 7,000 a week. Now we have actually seen there's a difference. It actually takes 15 to 20 minutes to get to town. And I would say the traveling costs now have gone down by half the cost of what we used to use like a year ago.
Na nisaidia juu watoto wangu wanapitia hii barabara wakienda shule. Sasa kwenda kwa shule watoto saa hii wanafika mapema juu barabara imekuwa mzuri. Inanisaidia juu hakuna jam. Nikienda town naenda na dakika kama 5 hivi. Kabla barabara itengenezwe kulikuanga na shida mingi ya accident ilikuwa mingi sana kwa barabara. Siku hizi tangu barabara iwe tengenezwa, siku hizi barabara imekuwa mzuri, hakuna accident mingi.
It has really improved my activities because I used to leave my house at 5:30 before the road was made. These days I leave my house at 6:15 and I make it to work by 7 and I'm actually supposed to report by 7:30. So I find it very convenient for me. Even in the evening, I'm also able to reach home very early.
But even before the paint has dried on the overpasses and the zebra crossings, there are challenges already facing commuters and road users. Vandals and thieves have been having a field day with the freely available steel poles and solar panels, something even Kenya's president says has to be sorted out sooner rather than later.
I also wish to emphasize that road projects are costly investments. Installations such as lights, road signs, and guard rails are put in place for the safety of all road users. It is therefore in the interest of all of us to be vigilant and report vandals or those who are found to be trading in road furniture stolen from our roads. I direct security agencies to be more aggressive in dealing with this menace.
One positive indication of growth and development in any burgeoning economy is in its road network. Kenya has targeted the year 2030 as its goal of reaching middle income status.
Barabara vile imekuwa, mimi nimeona imefanya mambo niweze nikaona mbele. sababu mbeleni haikuwa hivi. Hata watu wakitembea barabarani walikuanga na uoga, kwa sababu hii barabara kwanza wakora walikuwa wanahanda watu sana kwa njia ya magari, njia zingine, lakini saa hii unatembea ukiwa free.
The Thika Superhighway is one step closer to achieving that milestone, along with other road networks currently underway, thanks to organizations like the African Development Bank.
And by the way, it's not here alone. If you go further south in Tanzania, we're doing pieces of infrastructure there, which will make it possible, once also the Moyala Road is finished, to go from Addis to Durban and do business. That is what Africa needs.
Addis to Durban.
Absolutely.
And that's going to happen.
It will happen.
In our lifetime.
In the next decade.
It is hard to imagine that it only took a little over 3 years to build this complex network of highways and byways. Imagine if such a project had been undertaken 10 or even 20 years ago. It is safe to say Kenya would not only be a regional giant, but a continental powerhouse as well. The Thika Superhighway, a perfect example of what the continent's leading bank is doing to overhaul and transform the infrastructure, economy, daily life, and standard of living of the people of Africa.
When the Millennium Development Goals were adopted in 2000, the first objective was eliminate global poverty. And that meant get to growth rate of 7%. People did not believe Africa would get there. We are there. People are looking at Africa. Africa is another eye. And when they see us putting 10 million, 50 million, 100 million in a country, they come to us to ask, hey, what's going on there? What are the opportunities? So they come here to learn. They come here to do things. And I like what is happening.